Hey there guys, it's Les. Welcome to Hypnotherapy Unleashed. On today's episode of Making Sense of the Mind, I'm going to share with you my favourite tool for stopping negative thinking dead in its tracks. So negative thinking is something that I'm sure we're all guilty of. When we think about what negative thinking is, I've said it in the previous videos. Very often it's just the health and safety officer in the back of our mind wanting to show us something that we should be aware of that might danger us some way, and that might in some way indirectly affect our survival in some way, one way or another. But how is it that we get rid of negative thinking? Because very often the most natural thing that I know a lot of my clients have always told me is when it comes up, they want to try and push it away. And there's a problem with that, and I'm sure you probably know what it is as well. Is that health and safety officer, that part of the brain, because it came first in our evolution, and it was only the logical part of the brain that started to evolve afterwards, that health and safety officer, that limbic part of the brain, it's known as the limbic system, is around about 5 times faster than the part of us that we want to have. I suppose we want to be in control of this entire system. So very often when a negative thought comes up and we try and batter it away, it seems to come back with some ferocity, doesn't it? Now, I'm not by any means a UFC expert. I don't think I've ever even been in a fight. But I know for a fact that there is no way in heck that I could win in a battle between me and something that's 5 times faster than I am. So if we're trying to head on collide with this negative thought, chances are we're going to lose, every single time. So there's a wonderful technique that I want to share with you that I originally got from someone called Byron Katie, and she did an incredible book or incredible system. There was a system she put together called The Works. And what this allows us to do is it allows us, instead of to try and collide with this negative thought head on, it allows us to dance with it. Now, very often, this limbic part of the brain, I've called it the health and safety officer, but very often it's referred to as the chimpanzee part of the brain. And that was made famous by a psychologist called Steve Peters. So instead of trying to fight the chimp or box the chimp, we're going to dance with the chimp. In fact, if you're watching this with someone right now, there's a really interesting exercise you can do, providing you're, in homes and you're isolated and safe with someone else. Get them to put their fist out and put your fist against theirs and start to push and see what happens. Now, 100% of the time, when you start to push against their fist, you'll find them pushing back. Now, you wouldn't have asked them, can you push back? It's just a natural instinct that we do. The brain's the exact same thing. So when that negative thought comes up and we try and collide with it, we'll find that it just pushes back. It's just part of our nature. So instead of trying to push and collide against it and try and become the stronger force, we're going to become the smarter force. Now, if you get your friend to put the fist out again, get 2 fingers, and you'll find that you'll be able to push their fist in any direction, no matter how strong they are. And this is almost like the mental jiu-jitsu version of that. So very often, 9 times out of 10, a negative thought comes up. What is it that we do? We try and refuse for that thing to be true. It might be that we're about to go into a social situation and suddenly we've got this horrid thought that people don't like us or we're going to make a fool out of ourselves. Now, when we try to attempt to push that away, it's just going to come back stronger. So there's 4 questions that we can ask ourselves that are just going to change the game going forward. And so when that first comes up, the first thing we want to do is we want to be able to recognize that that thought is even present, because what we resist persists. If I try and tell you right now, don't think of anything but a black cat, don't try and think of a black cat, that's the only thing that your mind's going to be able to bring up, because in the act of resisting that thought, your mind has to bring it up to resist it. So when that thought comes up of we're going to make a fool out of ourselves and we try and tell ourselves that that's not the case, we're going to lose. If, however, that thought comes up, you're going to make a fool out of yourself, there is another way we can go about this. And so the first question that can change the game for us is when that pops up, we just ask it, is it true? Now, if we're in that state where we genuinely believe in that moment that it is true, 9 times out of 10, we're going to think, yes, it is true. And that's okay. But that's when question number 2 comes in. And this is probably one of the most important ones of them all, which is, can I know 100%, absolutely, that this is true? Now, as much as we'd like to think that we're clairvoyant, as much as we like to know that or as much as we like to think even that we're telepathic and we know what other people are thinking, or we know what's going to happen in future events, we just don't. And so the answer can never really be a yes. We cannot know. Would we bet our child's life on it? Would we bet our own life on it that 100% this is going to happen? The answer is always no. And so once we've understood that that wiggle room is there in action, and that it's not 100% inevitability, it might just be 99%, we can start to ask ourselves question 3, which is, who am I? Or who do I become when I believe this is true? So when I believe that I am going to be a laughing stock when I walk into the room, who do I become? Well, I certainly become much shyer. I certainly feel really uncomfortable in those moments. I certainly don't think I'm going to bring any value. In fact, my body language will start to change. I know that my breathing will start to become a lot more shallow. In fact, I'll become someone who won't even want to go into new rooms, and I'd probably retreat and stay in my comfort zone and be like the hibernating caveman that I know I can be. So the next question then is, well, who do I become when I don't believe it's true? Well, now that I know that there's wiggle room in the idea that this thing isn't 100% true, who do I become when this isn't true? And it might be that actually when I believe that this isn't true, when I believe that the opposite is true, and actually I'm going to be the life and soul of the party, who do I become? Now, you might think that that's just not something that's ever realistic, but really go through this mentally. And if you've watched the video on journaling that we've done, you'll see that being able to have something down on paper really does make a difference in regards to being able to see through the smog of it all. And so when you go through this the first time, it's going to feel really alien, but I'd suggest doing it on paper. Who do I become when this isn't true? Who do I become when I believe that I'll be the life and soul of the party? Well, what are the chances of me becoming the life and soul of the party in that moment? They're much higher than if I believe that that's not so, right? So I probably become more confident when I believe that that's true. I probably become nicer. I probably become more interesting. I probably become more interested. And you can start to write down all the different characteristics that you'll find yourself becoming when you believe that it isn't true. And so this begs a really, really interesting question that I'm probably going to go into in another video, which is, how helpful are your beliefs? But hopefully that's given you a tool there that you can start to implement today on a negative thought that keeps coming up. I know the reason I've done this video is because recently, a couple of weeks ago, I had a client who was certainly having issues with these negative thoughts just coming out of nowhere, and their previous tactic was just trying to knock this thing away, really trying to suppress it, really trying to just ignore the idea that this could be the case. But the moment that he learned from going from fighting the chimp to dancing with it, he found himself being able to allow that feeling of negativity to come up and then just go through him, and it would leave. And guess what? With practice comes progress. And so it's to the point now, several weeks later, where he is so much quicker at being able to address that as and when it comes up. Is he an expert yet? No. Because who's an expert at doing anything after 3 weeks? However, he's seen the progress of being able to dance with that chimp. And the more you dance, the more you become a better dancer. So I'd like to know, what is it that you could start to do? What are the results that you're going to get from being able to do this starting today? Hope you enjoyed the video. Please do like and subscribe and share. And I'll see you next time. Thanks.